Well, hello friends, and welcome to another edition of Your Mileage May Vary with Sarah Gaston and
Joe Grisaffi.
Yeah, so I just finished a Facebook Live where I shared top 10 mistakes actors make, courtesy of the lovely Dolores Jackson, Esquire. And she wrote these a few years ago for the Screen Actors Guild, and she actually added a couple of updates for me to share.
Oh yeah.
And we decided this would make a darn good video. Joe
Yes.
has some anecdotal evidence to support Dolores's complaints.
And some of them are quite funny.
Yes. Oh, and by the way, if you think we're talking about you, we probably are. All right, great. So, number one, being unavailable or not responding to your agent in a timely manner. Joe, can you talk about this?
I sure can, as I have experience in the casting department as a casting director. It is incredibly infuriating when you're trying to schedule an audition day and you're waiting for actors to get back to their agents so the agents can tell you if they're going to attend the audition or not. It's that simple. If you don't tell your agent you can make it or not, it's okay to say no. We just need to know so we can invite another actor to fill that spot. We can't do our job without actors coming to the audition. And if you don't tell us that you can or cannot come, that makes our prep day last even longer. The quicker we can fill those spots with the right people, the quicker we're done and we're more relaxed during the session.
And you can go to bed.
And I can go to bed.
Hey, you know, Joe, some actors complained to me that their agent waited until the very last minute to get them the information. Now, why is it that casting directors withhold that information from the agents and from the actors?
That is fake news. It is in the casting director's best interest to relay that information to the agent so the agent can get it to the actor as quickly as possible, like we just said, so we can get our job done and call our prep day done and go to bed. Why would we hold that information from the actor? We have to wait for the client to give it to us, and I promise you, unless there's extreme circumstances or a simple mistake is made, the casting director forwards everything he or she knows to the agents as soon as they get it.
Yep.
If the agent doesn't have it, it's because it hasn't been provided to them because the casting director hasn't been given that information to the client, from the client.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right, number two, being late. Now, Joe, you know, some actors think that if I have a 1 o'clock audition time, that means I just stroll in at 1:05 with a couple of wardrobe pieces and go and talk to the assistant and ask them which shirt I should wear. Is that correct?
That is not correct information. If you have a 1 o'clock appointment, that means you need to be there at least 15 minutes early. Now, don't be there too early because you're in the way, but you need to be there early enough to make sure the script hasn't changed, to make sure there's no new information, to sign in, whether it's on paper like we used to do. Sometimes paper is still asked, or to sign in on the computer. There can be glitches on the computer. When we schedule you at 1 o'clock, that's the time you are supposed to be starting your audition. If you are late, you could throw the whole day off. If you're late 5 minutes, you may not think it's a big deal, but let's say throughout the day, 10 people are 5 minutes late. Well, that could be an hour.
Yeah.
The casting can go an hour long. Now, also, something you need to realize is casting directors will often pair people up. And it's not just a random pairing. It is well thought out in most cases. You are paired up with someone that we think you would do well with or you look right with. And if you don't show up for your audition, we have to scramble and grab someone who may not be right just to get through the day. And that affects both of those people's auditions. And it affects yours when you get there because you're not auditioning with the person that we intended you to.
Yep.
You
I
know?
mean, I'm 5'8", so if you put me with some guy who's 5'4", that's going to be a problem.
Exactly, and that is a key thing. Sometimes we pair people up with the right heights. If we have someone that's 5'4" coming in, I try to schedule someone else within a certain range.
We try to keep the hobbits together.
Yeah, you can't have, there's actors out there that are 5 foot, 5'2", and then actors that are 6'2", 6'4", and yes, we've had to pair them up because their partner that was scheduled didn't show up on time.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I want to say something else about this being late thing. One time I was helping with a casting, and it was a callback, okay? So with a callback, the client is in the room, right? So there might be 10 different people, as you know. It could be the client, it could be the director, it could be people from the ad agency, and maybe they only, fly into town for, say, 4 or 5 hours to do that callback. And an actor walked in, and she was about 10 minutes late. And she walked in, she wasn't dressed, she was clearly out of breath and sweaty and frazzled and all this stuff. And I said, hey, you're supposed to be in the audition room now. She proceeded to chew me out like it was my fault, because how dare I call her out because she had just driven all the way back from Louisiana because she had had a shoot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it took her agent a while to talk her down, not realizing that I was on her side, that it makes her look bad because she is throwing the whole audition off for the 10 people sitting in that room.
I didn't know that story.
Oh, yeah.
If you're frazzled, if you're coming in late, first of all, make sure your representation knows so that your agent can let us know, the casting director know, that you're late. Because if we know, we can plan accordingly. We know Sarah's going to be late. There's someone else that's the same type that can audition with someone else. So
don't keep the client waiting, people.
Yeah.
What you doing?
And if you're in that situation, take 5 minutes, sit in your car, and calm down.
Yeah.
Just take a breather, because you're going to bring that into the room and you're going to upset the casting assistant, yes, who is on your side. Believe it or not, the casting director is on your side.
Yeah.
We want you to do well, because if you do well, the casting director looks well.
Yeah.
Looks good. So everyone that you're going to see wants you to win.
Yeah.
If you come in with an attitude because you were stuck in traffic and you had a bad day, you need to wait in the parking lot and just chill out.
Chill the out. Oh, great.
Yes, that's it. It's chill out.
Number 3, not bringing your headshot and resume. I don't know, Joe. We live in a digital age. My headshot and resume are in Actors Access. I don't need to bring it to the audition, especially not a callback, right?
But I can bring it up on my phone.
Yes!
That's not the point. When we say bring a headshot and resume, we need something for you to leave behind as a memento of your presence at the audition. When it's said and done, we've talked about this before in another video.
A memento.
We want a souvenir of your visit.
I want to put it under my pillow.
No, when you leave, when the audition is over, the clients put their heads together and they pull the people they like, they pull your headshot and they start to lay it out on the floor with all the other actors they like, and they match moms and dads, husbands and wives, kids with parents, salespeople, best friends. They want a visual reference without pulling up your video, because it's like a game. They just move these things around until they're happy with the combinations, and if they don't have your headshot, they will draw a stick figure picture, a big smiley face. If you wear glasses, they'll draw glasses on there, and that will be what represents you after the callback. They don't refer back to the video unless they don't remember somebody, but you can't take that video, you can't take a digital image and put it on the floor. We need a physical headshot.
Unless you want to leave your phone behind.
Yeah, or your iPad or whatever. Probably not going to get it back. But just because your agent didn't tell you to bring a headshot is not an excuse. Always have them. Sometimes, more often than not, you don't need them at the initial audition, but what if you do? Keep them in your car. And I can't think of any instances in recent years where you did not need a headshot for the callback.
Oh, no.
This is very standard to move these things around.
I keep a stack in my trunk. Okay, line. You know what, Joe? Here's the thing. I'm actor Joe Blow. I don't want to hand a resume that, looks kind of thin, like I haven't done a whole lot. Can't I just sort of fluff up, my credits, or kind of conflate my training? Because, I want them to want to bring me in for stuff.
No. Do not embellish your resume. There will be people out there that can tell you what you can and cannot get away with. And the thing is, whatever you put on there, you have to be prepared to be called out on. If someone brings it up, you have to explain what that is. And if you're not completely comfortable with backing up your lie or what you embellish, don't put it on there. Now, here's an example.
Can I tell Tiffany's Sam Shepard story?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we have a friend who used to work for a talent agency, and this guy brought in his resume, and he said he was in the play Steel Magnolias. And she said, oh, really? Well, what part did you play in the staged version of Steel Magnolias? And he said, well, the Sam Shepard role. And she says, yeah, that role isn't in the stage version. So I've been in the stage version of Steel Magnolias. It's 6 women. There are no men. It's all told from the women's point of view. So this poor sucker did not even bother to research the play before he put it on his resume as something he had done, right? So here's the thing, you get called out on a lie. Why should we believe anything else you say?
Right. There's lots of examples like that. And
so many.
I remember early on in my career, I read a book that I do not recommend anyone do these things, but it was a kind of a shortcut thing, how you can embellish your resume and get away with it. And it was like finding a little theater in a podunk town and finding out what show they did, and then say you were a part of that. Who's going to know? Well, guess what?
There's always somebody
who knows.
Yes.
You don't know. They may not be in that audition, but they could be.
Yeah.
Oh, no. you did the community theater in El Paso? Yeah, I'm from El Paso.
Yeah. No.
How's so and so? And then you're caught.
Yeah, you're cooked. No, I have a story about that. So many years ago, I did an intensive, a summer arts intensive through the CSU school system, out in California. And one of the people we worked with was a woman named Kim Rubenstein, who used to be the associate artistic director of the Long Wharf Theater in Connecticut, right? And I worked with her in California. Now, and she taught us Feldenkrais and viewpoints. So unless you're a stage actor, that's an obscure reference that you're probably not going to have any, it won't mean anything to you anyway, but it's a very specific kind of theatrical training. Anyway, I auditioned for a play in Houston with a guy who was directing, and the playwright was from Yale. Anyway, he glances at my resume and he goes, oh, you know Kim, how is she? Right? Why would a guest director who happens to come to Houston know an artistic director from Connecticut that I met in California? It's a small world. You just never know who knows who. And so, but luckily, because I wasn't lying, I was able to have a conversation with him about the lovely Kim Rubenstein.
And you probably scored some points with him.
Yeah,
now,
absolutely.
one more point about that.
Yeah.
I was an extras casting assistant on Tin Cup. You know this.
Uh-huh.
And there were hundreds and hundreds of people.
Oh, yeah.
So you think you can get away with saying you were an extra on Tin Cup and not get caught because you weren't. Mm-hmm. Well, I caught somebody doing that. Mm-hmm. And they said they were an extra on Tin Cup.
Yeah.
And I worked on that movie for 54 days. I knew hundreds of people.
Yeah.
I recognized all the names.
He remembers everybody.
It's getting harder to, but
yeah.
At that point I was still a memory machine.
Yeah, yeah.
But I called this person out and said, oh, you worked which days and what location? And they couldn't tell me.
Yeah.
They were caught.
Yeah.
And embarrassed. And there's another time I caught someone said they did a play and they actually did a scene. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you've seen that.
Oh yeah, you do a scene in class, so you said that you've done a production of it. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, and you can that is so easy to get caught on because these directors know theater.
Yeah.
And the casting directors often know theater too.
Yeah, yeah.
And this particular one was George Lee's play, The Wolf Who Cried Boy.
Oh, yeah.
And they were doing scene work in class, and he said he was did the show. Uh-huh. And George actually did the show, and I saw the show.
Yeah.
And
you didn't see that guy.
I didn't see that guy in the show.
Yeah, don't be that guy that wasn't the guy that was in the show that George Lee wrote.
Yeah.
That sounds like a children's story.
So you do not, if you do a scene in class, you do not say that you did the show.
Yeah, just say.
You can call it scene work.
I did scene work. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to fill up your resume, you can do scene work.
Yeah.
Section.
And there's nothing wrong with that, especially at this point if you're relatively new. Okay, moving on. Being rude. So we can go back to number 2 about the woman who chewed me out. And there was another person who shall remain nameless, Heath, who chewed me out because I couldn't remember his name. And you know, here's the thing. We all, if you work in this industry, especially in more than one capacity, we might see several hundred different people in a week. We just can't remember everyone's name. And it's not personal. It's just not. And this is why I always keep this in mind. And I'm gracious when I'm meeting somebody, you know, for the 10th time and they don't remember my name. You know, I always say like, hey, I'm Sarah. I'm so sorry. Please remind me of your name, right? Because I know names fall out of my brain like it's a sieve. Anyway, but this gentleman got really, really upset with me, and he just chewed me out. There was nothing that I could say to assuage him. And then Joe had to get involved, and you know, he had this whole story about how his kid had thrown up on him, and so he had to change, and he was late. Anyway, but he took all of that and dumped it on me, and which was just not cool. Like, karmically, y'all don't do that. Secondly, then, you know, the casting director doesn't want to bring you in anymore because you don't know how to treat.
And it was just an awkward audition for everyone involved and everyone who saw the exchange in the
it was
holding
in
room.
Front of a whole room full of people. They saw this. Yeah.
Yep. So again, if you having a bad day, you need to figure out a way to leave it outside.
Yeah.
And pick it up when you leave.
Yeah.
But don't bring it into the casting session.
Yeah. We're just trying to do our job, y'all. Okay, making excuses. Yeah, there you go. See, like that guy. Yeah, he was like, well, this happened and this happened. It doesn't matter. It doesn't happen. If you're not prepared, if you're late, if you didn't dress the part, if you didn't bring your headshot, you know, I don't care that your printer's broken, right? I mean, it's the end result is, you know, do or do not, okay? So the example that I always give my students is the Olympics, okay? So the auditioning is like the Olympics of acting, in that it doesn't matter what you intended to do. What matters is what happens on the day. Right? So we've all seen the Olympics, hopefully. If not, oh my God, get on board. But you know, we've always seen the person who was like the favorite to win. You know, Shaun White, of course, he was going to, you know, smoke the Olympics and all that kind of stuff. And then something happens on the day and they don't medal, right? Or they get second place or whatever. All that happens is what happens on the day. And you can have all the excuses in the world, but don't waste everyone's time with giving them, because the result is, you know, if you're not prepared or if you're late or whatever, it's done, all right?
No, you can't fix it.
Yeah. Not keeping your training current. Yeah, you know, Joe, a lot of actors think that, you know, they've taken a couple of classes, or, you know, they did, you know, theater in college or whatever, and then they're done, right? So do you want to say something about that?
Well, I do want to acknowledge, I listened to your Facebook Live.
Okay,
and you brought up a very good point where...
Ooh, what did I bring up?
You brought up, and correct me if I'm wrong or put me on the right path, you had daytime drama, nighttime drama, sitcoms years ago.
Oh yeah, back when we had like 3 genres.
Right, and now
I said 2, but you're right, I forgot daytime. Yeah,
but you've got documentary, you've got POV, what's the Blair Witch, and reality TV. You've got all these subgenres and new genres that you have to be prepared for.
Yeah.
And comedy's different. Comedy is constantly evolving.
Comedy's evolving,
and
commercials are evolving.
Yeah, so...
all the subgenres within film and television. So you got to keep up with the styles, and you wouldn't believe the different acting styles there are just for the different types of television out there, right? So like if you're going to audition for, you know, The Big Bang Theory, it's going to be different than if you audition for Game of Thrones than if you're auditioning for CSI, right? And you have to understand the specific style of acting for each of those genres, or the tone for that particular show, the tone for that particular advertiser, if it's commercials, the tone for that particular product, if it's commercials. So if you're not keeping up with your training, you're just not going to be competitive.
Right, and you may have been in this position too, where you get auditions for shows you've never heard of.
Yeah.
There are so many TV shows and internet shows and other types of shows out there.
Yeah, they're coming out of the woodwork for sure.
And you may be a funny person, and you may be trained in a particular type of comedy, but I got an audition for, what's it called? Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell.
Okay.
And I had never heard of the show. And I found it online. You Part of your
you can watch clips.
Part of your preparation for auditions now should be looking up the show.
Or at least look up the writer and the director so that you know like what their body of work has tended toward up to this point, if it's a pilot.
Right. In this particular show, it was kind of funny. It was a very dry delivery. It was about these people in hell and how they get through life. And I watched the very first episode, and David Simpson was in it.
What?
Our friend David Simpson was in it. He was in the opening scene. He was tied up and he was being tortured by some of Satan's underlings.
You know,
and
well,
it was just really...
if you knew David, you know he had it coming. No, I'm kidding.
So, yeah, you get an audition for a show, go watch, and you've never heard of it, you got to go see it.
Yeah.
You got to go watch it, because what sounds like a comedy may not be a comedy.
Right.
You need to know
or
what
what
you're
reads
walking
like
into.
a drama could be a comedy.
Right.
And if it's not formatted like a sitcom, you know, you may not recognize it. I had an instance where I had an audition for the show Manhattan, and it was for the first season, and there was nothing out there. There was nothing to show because they were still filming the first season. All I could find online was a trailer, right? So I was able to see, oh, this is sort of a 50s, 50s, 60s style period drama. It was around the Manhattan Project, and so at least I got a sense of the style, right? But otherwise, like Manhattan, that could mean anything, right? You might think it's Sex in the City, right? I'm going to drink a martini and, you know, be in my Jimmy Choos, right? So you got to do your research. Let's see, playing the negative.
I saw that a lot.
Yeah.
I saw that a lot. And one of our dear friends auditioned for a restaurant commercial, I think last year. And she was auditioning for a grandmother with a family, and they were looking at the menu. And
Was this NL?
No. I had to think of who's NL.
CR?
No.
Okay, anyway, you can tell me later.
Okay.
Now I'm intrigued.
They were looking at the menu, the family was looking at the menu, and our friend, who had a shot at this, because we just don't have a lot of elderly actors in town, went on yeah.
Okay.
And she went to the negative. She said, "Oh, it's not as good as mine. It's just not as good as mine."
Oh,
And
was that with Black Bear Cafe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's like, oh, that you just blew it.
Yeah, because you don't ever want to have a negative association with a product that you're trying to sell.
Right.
You know, like, you get paired with somebody to, you're shopping for a Toyota together, right? And you're like, should we get can I get the baby blue, van? No, I don't want to get the baby blue van. You never do what I want. This is why I want a divorce. Like, why would I want to buy a Toyota?
And I see that all the time when I was auditioning people.
Yeah.
It's so easy to go the negative.
Is this why you got out of casting?
It's one of the reasons. But you emphasize the importance of yes and that's something you need to remember and take some improv training, because it's always positive.
Yes.
If you're in that situation and the
You
wife says,
negate.
"Can I get a blue car?" Well, yes, and we might want to also consider this.
Yeah, exactly.
Never negate your scene partner's suggestions.
Yeah.
It's always great. Let's also consider this.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can't tell you the number of times I have in class when I'm teaching commercials, I will do that Cons commercial that I booked years ago. That I think you did some of the casting for. And no, he's not the reason I booked. The client decided. Anyway, but I would give them 3 directions: play toward the camera, smile the entire time, and keep it positive. And inevitably, people would be like, "Hi, welcome to Cons. These refrigerators are too expensive." They're in profile the whole time, they're not smiling, and they're complaining about the price.
Yep.
And all I said was smile, play toward the camera, and keep it positive. And it immediately goes out of actors' heads. So really, the bottom line is be present in your audition. Okay, not listening to direction and not being flexible. Can I tell the story about the jogger? Mm-hmm. Okay, so true story. I was working with a casting director, and a woman came in, and this might have been for an athletic wear commercial, I'm not quite sure, but the women were asked to jog in place, just to make it look like, this is what you would look like if you're going to be running in the commercial. And this woman grabs her breasts and starts running around the room like a crazy rabbit. And like, I did not wear my sports bra. And like, and the casting director kept telling her like, don't just jog in place. I did not wear a sports bra. And literally, and she's running all over the room.
We're laughing, but it's true.
This is true, y'all. And this isn't like, she's probably not the worst offender. She's one of the funniest. But the bottom line is the casting director was very gracious and then immediately deleted her audition because she literally couldn't listen to the direction. Back to you.
Back to me.
Yeah.
We get it. You can be nervous and you can just tune this stuff out when you're being told what to do. Early in my career, I realized that was a problem that I had. And you
What?
I'm sorry, what did I just say?
What did you say?
I don't know. What did I just say?
You had a problem?
I did.
Did you go to the doctor?
No. Yes, and yes, I did, and
that's how you do it.
I got it.
Yeah. Okay.
No, you're nervous. There's a lot going on, and people are telling you what to do, and you don't do it.
Yeah.
And then you don't realize you didn't do it until you leave the room, and you go, "Oh shit! That's what I didn't do what he told me to do."
Yep. And here's the thing. So refer back to number 7, keep your training current. Because here's the thing. If you're regularly in class, if you're in a commercial class, or if you're in an improv class, or even if you're just getting together with a group of people once a week via Zoom, or, with a pod you trust in your living room, and you're practicing that, hey guys, this week let's practice improv commercials. Guys, this week let's just practice commercials. Guys, this week, let's do procedural scripts. When you're at least staying in practice, if you can't be in class for some reason, then at least it won't have been a month since you went into the audition room and you just lose your mind because it feels like a whole new world.
And before we move on, and I know we've talked about this, when these actors come in the room, but
Tom, yeah.
Yeah, Tom and Bill.
Yeah. And Ted.
Some actors come into the audition and feel they have to be on the second they walk in the room.
Hi.
And they're chatty, and they want to start to perform, and they want to show us how funny they are, and they can't shut up.
Oh, the stand-up comedians.
And those are often people that don't hear the direction as well because they can't shut up and listen. They just they're on all the time, and they think as soon as that door opens, it's like, "Hey, I'm an actor. Hey, how are you guys doing? Good. I'm doing great." And they.
Would you like to hear what I've done recently?
Yeah. No, we don't.
Yeah.
If we did, we'd ask.
Yeah.
But just come in, say hello, listen without speaking, and process, and then do it.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
I was kidding. I got what he said.
There's the nervous people who don't hear because they're so nervous, and then there's the people that think they have to perform.
Yeah. Patsy Rodenberg, who's an extraordinary vocal coach, she's world famous. She wrote a book called The Second Circle, and she talks about this in a video on YouTube. You should check it out. Patsy Rodenberg, The Second Circle. But she talks about that. First circle is somebody who's like retreating and withdrawing, and then like you have to come closer to even like hear them. And then first circle is somebody who's just like, they're constantly pushing this energy in your face, right? And that type of person can be just a little bit like Teflon just in general. I'm sure we all know this type of person because they're too in their show, that they can't, there's no connection there, right? So just don't be a first circle person. Okay, great. Be prepared. Okay, this is a quote. Of all the mistakes, this one is the worst with the most offenders. Nothing can mask a lack of preparation. Would you like to speak to that?
Yes, very briefly. Do your homework, and it's very clear when you come into the room and you don't know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Think of a student who's trying to fake their way through an oral presentation. Mm-hmm. We know.
Yeah.
If you have to constantly call for lines. There's still some debate whether you need to be off book for an audition or if you can hold your script. That's something you need to ask ahead of time. But even if you're allowed to hold your script, you should still know it.
Yeah, you shouldn't have your eyes buried in the script. And again, cold reading, I always tell my students, practice cold reading at least 10 minutes a day. Mm-hmm. It's something you can work on for free on your own, but there's just no excuse for walking in and doing an audition like this.
And I see so many people I have seen so many people who have been doing this for years who still read their scripts like this. It's such a basic rule, and it's broken ruthlessly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I said my line. Please acknowledge that I said my line.
Exactly. Yes. Or the other side of that coin is, I have learned my lines and I'm going to regurgitate them like a robot, but I'm not going to think about what I'm saying or feeling. But look at me, I learned my lines. Please congratulate me. So basically, you're taught in school at a very early age to memorize by rote. That's not an accomplishment, y'all. That's not what acting is. So, yeah, be prepared. Know what you're doing. Peace. Okay, great. So, these are the bonus things. Oh, wait,
you've got a great video about that, how to prepare yourself and how to break down that script and find all the hidden treasures and information.
The Easter eggs,
Yes, look up Sarah's Easter eggs video. I don't know what the actual title of it is.
It's not called Easter eggs, but yeah.
But she does a really good job. You do a really good job pointing out all the little things that most people would miss in just a quick read.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, yeah, I think it's called Audition, we're probably going to have to do an inset for this.
Well, you'll send me a link and I can forward the end of this video directly to it.
Perfect, yeah. I think it's called the, Audition, Create Your Imaginary World or something.
That's it, Imaginary World.
Okay, yeah. So, we'll put it at the end because it is really helpful. And in fact, you should subscribe to both our YouTube channels because we've got a lot of helpful information for free for you. Okay. So our dear friend Dolores, I spoke with her earlier today to ask her if I could talk about this on Facebook Live, and she graciously said yes, but she wanted to add a few things to address our current environment because, as you know, we're going through a global pandemic and we've had to make some adjustments to the way we audition. So here are some things she would like us to share with you folks. One, make sure your taping skills, your self-taping skills, and your online profiles are on point. So this means all your marketing is current. Have current headshots. Have all your skills and resumes updated on Actors Access, casting networks, LA casting if you're working in the LA market as well. Make sure you have your virtual slate up on the sites that allow it. Make sure your demo is current if you have a demo reel and if that's applicable to you. It's really important to understand how to audition virtually. So hopefully if you're on Actors Access, you were able to go through one of those trainings they had real recently for EcoCast Live, which is basically how Actors Access is doing virtual auditions. So it's almost like a Zoom call that you do with the casting director, but you're doing it through the Actors Access platform, and they have a whole tutorial on how to do that. And if you somehow miss those that were scheduled, go on Actors Access and see if you can watch a replay of those videos. They're really helpful. But here's the thing, do not wait until you get one of these virtual auditions to figure out if your internet connection is stable, what your speed on your internet is, if you've got clear sound on your computer, if you need to set up an external camera, if you've got good lighting, if you have a backdrop of some sort that you can use. I mean, you can get a gray or blue sheet from Target and iron it really well and hang it up behind you. In fact, I have a video on, self-taping during quarantine. But you really want to make sure all that stuff is on point ahead of time, because if they can't see you, if they can't hear you, if the quality of the transmission is poor, you're kind of basically blowing your audition. And it's so unfortunate that we are in a time where so much of this has been put on the actor. I will tell you firsthand, and Joe can back me up on this, I'm not a tech person. I do not love it. I have not loved having to learn it this 6 months, but boy, I have been thrown into the deep end and I've been forced to learn it. And it's what we have to do right now. And what she also recommends, and I would recommend too, because I coach people regularly, is practice. Get with a group of friends and set up Zoom meetings and practice auditioning for each other and with each other, so that your friends on the other end can say, your audio is a little muffled, or you are really backlit, I can't really see your eyes, or well, the camera is too low, and I'm kind of looking, up your nose. I
Yeah.
mean, all those things like your angles, just like you would worry about on a live camera, you got to worry about in our new virtual world. Back to you, Joe.
No, I spent some time at the beginning of the pandemic testing all that stuff too. Is the lighting good if I do it by a window? Let me set up my blue screen.
Right.
Do I need lights?
Right.
What kind of microphone is best? So I played with microphones, and microphones you can get a nice microphone for $50.
Yeah.
So like Sarah said, you want to test all this stuff out so when you have the opportunity, when it comes up, you're ready to go.
Yeah.
And you can do it confidently, and you don't have to worry about the technical stuff.
Yeah. And if you might need to raise up your computer, right? I mean,
Right. I see a lot, and you can see this when probably everyone by now has done Zoom or some type of group video chat, and you got people who are on their phones and you can see up their nose and they don't care. And I've actually seen actors doing this. It's like, no, you got to find out what works best for you. Go to Container Store, go to Target, buy a milk crate, get a stack of books, raise your computer to a level where you think you look good.
Right.
Because it's so important.
And where it's gonna look like the frame of a camera. I have a plastic tub from, I don't know, Target or something that my computer sits on. And then I have a detachable camera because it's an HD camera, and it's far superior to anything I'd have on my laptop. I have a mic with a 20-foot cord.
These microphones we're using were only $25.
Yeah. I mean, I have filmed a couple of things over Zoom, since the pandemic began, and thank goodness I had this mic because it gave me superior sound, going through my computer for a Zoom shoot. So,
just like a regular film, I was in 2 Zoom movies myself, and if you look good, you're lit right, and you sound right, and someone else doesn't, there's a chance you're going to get more screen time.
Absolutely.
Because they're going to cut that bad-looking footage down to just what they absolutely have to have.
Yeah. Well, and I know when the pandemic first began, a lot of the actual calls were for people who could film in their home. Mm-hmm. So, I had to send multiple pictures of, where I live, and I actually had to film a version of the commercial myself, so I had to know my angles, and had to know how to light it. And I mean, it took a really long time. And again, it's like, what fresh hell is this? Why do I have to know all this stuff? It's the world we live in right now.
Suddenly actors need to understand the concept of headroom and look space, these filmmaking terms that you normally have to worry about.
Right. And eyeline is more important than ever. And and if you watch any sort of network television or even a little bit of online advertising, if you're really paying attention, it's like, oh wow, it looks like they did that looks like a Facebook Live. Well, it probably was a Facebook Live, right? They probably really did film it on their phone, and then they just had them send the footage to the ad agency, and then they cobbled it together because that actually ended up being the shoot because we were in quarantine, right? Mm-hmm. So these are all things, guys, it's a whole new world, and it is a business, and like all businesses, it is constantly evolving. And you can be Microsoft or you can be Apple, right? So you don't want to get left behind, guys. So keep up with this stuff.
Yeah, I would like to go back to number 5.
Being rude.
Real quick, being
rude.
Okay,
great.
In your Facebook Live, you brought up something, and I used to emphasize this in my when I used to do Getting Started workshops.
Yeah.
And I want to tell the football story too. Being rude. Your audition actually starts when you pull into the parking lot.
That's
and
true.
This is my opinion, and I really believe it, because you don't know who you're going to run into. And if you yell at someone for cutting you off, or they took a spot and you're having a bad day and you yell at them, you don't know if that's the producer returning from a coffee run or just showing up. You don't know who these people are.
Yeah.
So you be nice to everyone. If you're having a bad day, you get over it.
Suck it up!
On the way there, because if you're rude to the wrong person in the parking lot and then you end up being in the audition room with them, whether it's an actor or one of the clients, you're done. You're done.
You're done on a
So
run.
put on that happy face when you pull into that parking lot, and be nice to everyone you see from the car to the audition room, as well as the people in the audition room, because you don't know who they are. If they're the PA carrying coffee, they're still important because they go in there and say, oh, that's the woman that was rude to me.
Yeah, true story. There was a woman who was a caterer on a film or on a television set, and this particular actress, she just had a small, guest starring role, but she always went out of her, oh no, it was craft services. She always went out of her way to talk to the craft services woman and, just be pleasant and be interested in her day. Well, it turns out the craft services person was married to the director. And guess who started to get a bigger part? Because she made such a favorable impression on the craft services person.
Well.
So, true story.
Don't poo-poo on anybody in the process.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
And also, you had brought up the point, don't argue in the audition.
Oh, that story.
And this is a true story.
This is Take the Note,
And
a version of Take the Note, yeah.
This was a football-themed audition. These were football fans, and this guy picked an arguing point. This actor picked a point to argue about, which first of all, he was wrong and was completely unnecessary. So in this audition,
were you casting that time?
I was helping. I think
Okay.
it was Dolores's job, and I was in the room helping when we used to have enough budget to have an assistant and a camera person.
Yeah.
I was the camera person.
Those
So
were the days.
the topic of the Houston Texans and the Houston Oilers came up.
Yeah.
And I grew up watching the Oilers, and I know how franchises work, generally speaking. The Oilers moved to Tennessee and,
The whole team.
and became the Tennessee Titans.
Yes.
A new franchise was created, which was the Houston Texans. So these are two separate franchises.
Yes.
Legally, on paper, they are not the same team.
No.
Well, this guy decided, he didn't decide, he wanted to argue the point that the Texans are the Oilers. The Oilers became the Texans. The Texans is what the Oilers used to be. And that is so wrong. And I politely tried to correct him and say, no, they're two different franchises. They are not the same team. And he dug his heels in and wanted to argue his point that the Texans were the Oilers.
Yeah.
And that is very, very wrong.
First of all, y'all, is that worth losing a possible job over? Because all you have to say is, correct me, Joe. Yes, the Texans and the Oilers are the same thing. Go ahead and correct me.
Actually, no, they're not.
Oh, that's so odd because I always thought that. Oh, okay, cool. Well, I'll look that up when I get home. Problem
done.
solved.
Now,
Problem solved.
now the thing is, this guy didn't realize that I was also a casting director, and I've never brought him in for anything since then. And he has probably no idea why. He probably doesn't care, but he doesn't know why.
Yeah.
I won't just because he dug in and wanted to argue with me.
Yeah.
And I didn't argue back. I said, well, you're wrong, but okay. Have a nice day.
I wish you the best in all
But
your
yeah,
endeavors.
he dug in and just was getting worked up about it. Like, not worth it. Not
y'all,
worth it.
Pick your battles.
Yeah,
Okay.
pick your battles.
All right. Well, I think that's all we've got for you today. I hope this has been helpful, and let's see. Y'all break a leg out there.
Yeah, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you in the next video.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.